This is really cute. Hi everyone. It's me, Grand Louis TV guy. Hello. I know I'm a little late. I have someone I really care about who is over. Haven't seen them in a few years. Visiting, hanging out. I lost track of time, but we're here. We're going to be talking about the new Netflix series produced by DC Comics, and that is called Sweet Tooth. This is based on the DC comic book series, which I've read a little bit of. Very different from it, on some level, and very similar in a lot of ways. So, what is Sweet Tooth about? Sweet Tooth begins with the sultry voice of James Brolin, whose narration kind of, to me, in this sounds a tad like Sam Shepard's in the live-action Charlotte's Web movie, the Julia Roberts one. Basically, it starts off with pandemic hits, familiar. They actually have some really interesting commentary on that later in the season, but basically it's the anti-masker, the Trump supporters. Just be real what it is. Well, not even the Trump, just the alt-right. There are plenty of Trump supporters who are fine, who aren't trying to kill themselves and other people. Anyway, sorry, moving on. So, what's it about? It's about a young boy. Basically, it starts off with this pandemic. A doctor is rushing to figure things out. But there's an interesting thing that coincides with the pandemic, and no one knows which came first or which came last at first, and that is the rise of the hybrids. And what the hybrids are, they're basically babies that are born. And this is not done in a way that would imply something really distasteful and creepy. This is done purely by magical happenstance that's unexplained. The hybrids are basically half human, half animal babies who are born. One of those babies is named Gus. He would later go on to have the moniker of Sweet Tooth because of his love of sugar, particularly syrup, which he carries around with him. Like Buddy the Elf, he carries around a nice little thing of maple syrup. He's raised in the wilderness by his father, played in a terrific kind of small sporting world by Will Forte. Yes, that Will Forte, MacGruber, and The Last Man on Earth's Will Forte. Will Grillo from Tim and Eric. Cook your own dog. No child should be made to do that. Dogs should be raw and living. Alright. Sorry. Love Tim and Eric. Anyway. But they living in the wilderness because these group called the Last Men, as they call them, are hunting hybrids. Hybrids are basically outcasts from society. And so now events transpire where Sweet Tooth has to leave the fence and finds his way with a seemingly reformed person who might have ties to the Last Men, whom he calls a Big Man, who is played by, what's this guy's? The kid in it, his name is Christian Convery, I think his name, Convery. He was the little boy from a movie I actually kind of had a soft spot Playing with Fire, the little boy with that kid. I recognize him. Nonso Anozi. This guy was crappy Artemis Fowl movie from last year. He's a lot better here. In fact, he's kind of great here as Big Man, and they form like this sort of pseudo-paternal son-like bond as they go on a journey to Colorado, where young Sweet Tooth thinks is a safe haven for kids like him. And along the way, they face whimsical adventures that include running with a group of pro-hybrid freedom fighters led by a young woman named who calls herself Bear, and has, it turns out, a vested interest in protecting the hybrid kids and forms like a big sisterly bond with her as they make their way to Colorado. Look, this thing is done. I was thinking about it. Sweet Tooth, the series, was delightful, and that's kind of a big, despite how weird that premise is, it is very weird. What makes it work is that the weirdness is sort of grounded in this Spielbergian sense of whimsy from James Brolin's narration, which is very different from the comic, which was done by DC's Vertigo label before the Vertigo name was basically all but abandoned by DC, and now it's just DC proper. And it's produced by Robert Downey Jr. The thing that I think that's interesting about this show is the book was a little bit more about the darker side of this premise. The show is a little more family-friendly and more whimsical, and that's actually, I think, benefits this premise, because as much as it is about the pandemic and there are dark elements and there's tension involving the infected and things about that and the prejudices outside, what it really comes down to is this fatherly and almost father-son bond between Big Man and Sweet Tooth, and they're the ones who make the show work. They both have a past, they both have stuff that they are broken by, especially Big Man, and we're seeing it progress over the course of the series. And it's a show about prejudice. It's about the fact that these hybrids basically are treated like the way you would look at people in society now, especially in a post-pandemic year. People like the Asian Pacific Islander community, and people like no, the brutality and all that stuff. But it's not a political show necessarily. What it is it's a show about how the hybrids are sort of an allegory for how inherently humankind is afraid of what they don't understand and will act, and that it's a horrible thing. And it's a really interesting way of telling the story. You really like the relationship between these two characters, the people they meet along the way. There's this kindly woman who's kind of a freedom fighter who raises her adoptive daughter, who's kind of a pig hybrid, and you see the two of them, their kind of bond as they play together and talk together. Look, it also ends in a way where you kind of have to see, especially because one of the big arcs is Amy Simons has kind of a nice little recurring cameo as a woman that Sweet Tooth is led to believe is his mother, and he's on his way to find her. And so along the way, stuff goes. He learns more about his dear old dad. Really, really fun show for the whole family, despite the heavier themes. I'm gonna give Sweet Tooth. Can't go perfect with it because it just maybe has some moderate pacing issues, especially in the early going. But I hope there is a season 2. I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. I really liked Sweet Tooth a lot. Really sweet, lovable show. Despite the heavy material, it is a really kind of gentle, sweet, almost fairy tale-like. Like I said, the Charlotte's Web comparison is not unjustified in how it's narrated and how it's told. Really, really, really terrific. And the other thing, too, like, the hybrids are not necessarily a direct allegory for people who are, like, mistreated by society, but it is a larger blanket that, you know what I mean? Like, there's one telling moment, I'll just say what it is. In the season finale, where, they have, like, these two guys working at this facility, and they're both in kind of hazmat outfits. And one of them is telling the guy, like, oh, don't bother. Oh, all this stuff about the government is controlling us. And the other guy's like, well, you need to wear your mask. You need to be responsible. And the guy doesn't like that. And they get into, like, an argument into some kind of fisticuffs. That's kind of what this is about. And it's weirdly telling. They must have shot some of this during the pandemic itself. I don't know how they did it. But, I hope there's a season 2 of Sweet Tooth. I really dug this. Next week we got some movies. I already said them before. I'm tired. I think I'm going to go to bed. That'll all be next time. And until next time, I'm Grant the Movie and TV Guy. See it all. I'm happy to share it with you. I love you all. I appreciate you all. I love you all. Class dismissed. I love you 3000. Be kind to one another. Go check out Sweet Tooth. It's really good. Thanks again for all the massive support. A lot of it coming, and a lot of it coming off the Bo Burnham video. I really, really am happy that video did so well. I really do, honest to God, love that film. I've already watched it again. I'm going to watch it more than once. I really, really love what he did there, and I'm really glad that you guys responded to it so positively. I was so expecting at least one of you to hate it, but no. Getting a lot of love for that one, and Bo, of course, is getting a lot of love with all these terrific videos that my fellow YouTubers are also making about the special, and it's really, really cool to watch some of the other videos that have been done and seeing if, their own personal take on it. I like seeing, I like the conversation when something like this kind of brain-teasing kind of thing happens. Really, really good. So anyway, I'm rambling. Thank you all. I truly love you all. And, alright. Be kind to one another. Take care. Good night. Bye.